Welcome to the Hypervoice. I'm your host, Stephen Morioka, and today I'm joined by Alex Underhill.
Alola, Stephen.
Alola. This is a show all about Pokemon's Video Game Championship Series, also known as VGC for short, and we are here at our season finale.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Going to be wrapping things up, talking about all kinds of stuff as we head into Worlds here.
Yeah, super excited to be doing this one. Very reminiscent of our very first episode, where we're almost doing similar types of coverage in terms of the Worlds preview and our episode right before Worlds. But let's start with this. You qualified for Worlds, you're going to be playing in Worlds, and you're heading to Worlds. What are your travel plans looking like?
So I guess for me personally, I will be flying out really early Thursday. So flying out of Chicago at like 6 a.m.-ish, and then I got to do one plane change, and then I'm getting there actually around I feel like 9 or 10 or something, just because I save 2 hours when I fly there. I'll be doing a lot of flying, but the time zone changes give me back time, so it really only ends up being like a 3 or 4 hour flight, even though it's much longer than that. And then I guess I really don't know what I'm going to be doing after that. I'm flying in, and then I gotta obviously get to Anaheim. Right now, I'm actually off the top of my head, I can't think of if I'm flying into Orange County or Long Beach, because I'm doing one there and then the other one back. But I'm going to get from there to Anaheim, and then after that, I imagine that's going to take like an hour at most. Even if it takes 2 hours, it's still only like noon. I've got at least 4 hours to kill until the registration starts, when we get in line, start to get our bags and check in our teams and such for the day one players. And so I'll probably just be hanging out in the city. I don't really know. I'm not going to be going to Disneyland, sadly. I just didn't want to spend the money to do that. But just probably check out the city.
What's wrong with you?
What? I know. It's like the opportunity. I'm still waiting for like it never happened, but I was waiting for somebody to be asked on the stream, like, you qualified for Worlds, what are you going to do now? And they're going to be like, I'm going to Disneyland! And it would have just been so good. But a totally missed opportunity, because we have no more chances for that to happen. But after I register, I'll be in my hotel. I'm staying really close by. And then for the rest of the week, I don't have any grand plans besides Worlds. I will be there for all of Sunday night, because I'm flying out Monday. Lucky for me, I don't start classes for school until the following week, on like the 28th or so. So I have a full week after Worlds to just kind of recuperate, get everything back. It's no race for me to get back to classes and such. That's what I had to do last year, so that'll be really nice.
Sounds great. So, excited?
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling just ready for another fun time. I think that it's going to be a lot different considering the size. It's a much smaller Worlds this year, so I'm sure it'll be a much different experience.
I definitely think so. I'm definitely think it'll run smoothly. You know, the TOs and the staff are really on top of things at this final event. And, you know, that Sunday night, you always have room for Disneyland there.
Oh, you're right. Impromptu Disneyland.
I mean, why not? It'll be late in the day, but who knows what you'll end up planning on doing.
I'm going to be celebrating my championship win, or whatever.
Oh my. Alright, okay then.
Stephen, I gotta have the winning attitude.
That's true. Just going confident, not cocky, you know?
Oh, you know. And I trust you. I trust your advice. I'll try to keep a level head.
Okie dokie. Anyway, let's move on to... We'd like to acknowledge our VGC commentary team, who were selected as commentators for the 2017 World Championship stream. And familiar names up here: Evan Latt, Dweeha, Ray Rizzo, Jay Blake, Gabby Snyder, and Adam Doricott. We just want to congratulate you guys and acknowledge you for your hard work on commentary on the streams this year. And you guys will do a great job up there, so good luck. And we just wanted to acknowledge these folks. And Alex, you have anything you want to say about them?
Just mention that these are all people we've seen before, all strong names in the commentary department, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. There's like a lot of I've missed a lot of opportunities lately just because of things like playing in the tournaments and such, or like the venues don't have the commentary playing so that the players can hear it, and so I'm looking forward to, maybe hearing from these guys on like day 2 or something, or maybe on day 3 during the finals. So I think this is a strong team. I do enjoy all of their commentary, so looking forward to that and to a great stream.
Excellent. And now we have some of my favorite parts of VGC, and that is Pokemon history. And I'm just going to run through this little bit of World's history for a bit, and then maybe we'll get to talk about it for just a few moments. But 5 different countries have won Worlds in total. That is the United States, Japan, South Korea, Italy, and the United Kingdom, only in seniors, however. The previous 4 countries I'd mentioned have won in Masters, or just all in totality. Those are the only 5 countries that have ever won Worlds in Pokemon VGC. Lastly, I think everyone in the VGC community knows this, or I think at least should know this, that there's this crazy trend of the Psychic type winning Worlds every year. And this is literally every year since VGC has started. So you go down the list, you have 2008 Metagross and Bronzong, Metagross in 09, Cresselia in 2010, Gothitelle in 2011. This was before it got Shadow Tag. In 2012, Metagross and Cresselia paired in tandem. Latios in 2013, Gothitelle and Gardevoir in 2014, Cresselia in 2015, Bronzong in 2016, and here we are in present day, where there is the potential for a Psychic type to win it. The question is, will it or will they? So, that wraps up all I've got. Alex, any comments?
Well, I think towards your last comment, the fact that a Psychic type has won Worlds every single year, this seems like the year to potentially break the streak. It's kind of crazy. Metagross has been more dominant in past years. This year we're seeing a bit of surge of it, but it doesn't have access to its coveted Iron Head. It has its signature move in Meteor Mash, not totally signature, but a move that it's often known for, and Zen Headbutt, as well as things like Hammer Arm, just moves that often end up missing. And when you're going to be using them over the course of a whole tournament, I don't see Metagross being able to come out on top in this format. And Metagross isn't actually the number 1 Psychic type in the format, so there's still a little bit of hope. We have Tapu Lele, and so one of our coveted Tapus, we see them all over. Pretty much every team has a Tapu, and so I would say, Lele is a safe bet on the Psychic type that could try to take the whole thing, try to win the World Championships, but I really am feeling kind of, I don't know, I'm feeling like the Psychic types are going to have a tough run this year. Like, it's going to be really tough for them to actually come out on top.
Unfortunately, I do agree with you. It would be a sad sight just to see this streak broken. It's just part of the fun tales of the story of our history. I guess speaking about Tapu Lele and the Tapus in general, we're going to move on to talk about some more Pokemon here. And I think one of the greatest questions that has probably come up all season is, which Tapu is going to win Worlds? Will there be one specific one winning? Will there be a pair of them? Could 3 of them win? I highly doubt that all 4 of them will. Like, there's 0% chance of that.
0% chance?
Yeah, I don't think no one's going to bring 4 and win with them.
4 Tapu team? You don't see it happening?
Nope, no chance.
4 Tapus, 2 UBs. Or 4 Tapus, like 2 Weather Setters.
See, the one with the 3 in the Whimsicott using the nature power stuff, like, that's wacky enough, and if someone plays well enough with it, like, I could see that going somewhere. But winning Worlds, probably not. But I don't know. Which one do you think is going to win?
So my personal opinion on this, which Tapu will win Worlds question is kind of a weird one, because I think that 2 Tapus is going to win Worlds. However, I know that one of those Tapus is going to be Coco, but I'm not going to just stand alone and say, alright, Tapu Koko's winning Worlds. I think it's going to be Tapu Koko paired with one of the other Tapus. We've seen it with Feeny a lot on teams like Fake PG, where it's the E electric type. We've seen it on, variations like Lake PG, or just a lot of Coco and Lele in general, because fast, special offense can be pretty strong, especially in a format where, we do have a consistent Intimidator in Arcanine. And then Bulu, I think, is the kind of the new wave thing that people are doing, where, Bulu is an interesting Tapu. It's obviously gotten some flack over the course of the format, but people are really liking its ability to kind of take away the terrains from the other Tapus. It does very well against the remaining 3 Tapus, besides Bulu. Feeny, Lele, Coco all kind of had a hard time against Bulu. And so people are kind of pairing it with Coco because it's not good enough on its own, but just having another Tapu on your team isn't exactly a bad thing. Their weaknesses kind of overlap, but not terribly, and then having that much offense on a team can be a strong thing. I think it's going to be 2 Tapus that wins Worlds.
I'm on the other end where I think one will, and that's, to no surprise, Coco. I think Coco has been one of the most standout, easiest Pokemon and strongest Pokemon to use all format, and I think its strengths are going to show here at Worlds. So, I'm just going alone with Coco. I think Feeny paired with another Tapu can do well. I don't think Feeny alone is going to get anywhere, though.
Think it's just too passive, I guess, or too many Muddy Water misses?
Yeah, in a similar vein to Metagross, and it having to deal with the Zenhead but a Meteor Mash accuracy problems. Tapu Fini has issues with Muddy Water. While it does have Moonblast to rely on, there are just some turns where you're going to have to go for Muddy Water, and that's a problem. I also don't, you're right. I don't like how passive it is. I don't like where it is in the speed tiers, how, it's always playing that secondary role in terms of speed, what it's doing, and I feel it's more of a reactionary Pokemon than a proactive one.
And so, I guess looking at some of the other Tapus, we've seen, both of us think that Tapu Koko is going to be the winning Tapu this year. And I would say it's largely due to, its variability. It's just, we've seen both Paul Chua's Electrium Z Coco, or I guess Chris Kahn, because he ended up winning with it as well. They both had Electrium Z, often paired with the move Thunder, just to give you a very strong one-off Z move. Some people are even pairing it with Arcanine with Helping Hand, to the point that Gigavolt Havoc is going to OHKO anything if it's a neutral hit, which it often is. Or, we have our sparse immunities things like Marowak or Garchomp, something like that. But you see it taking very fast KOs, and just having it firing off at Coco's 130 base speed, it's something that can be very hard to stop. And so that's a really cool thing that it can do. But we've also seen people using these Skydrop Cocos paired with setup Pokemon like Swords Dance Garchomp or Swords Dance Kartana, or just anything else, really. Sky dropping is a very strong, controlling move, where you can lift up your opponent's Pokemon, and for that next turn, they can't protect. That Pokemon's just kind of trapped in, and so if you play your cards right and switch around and play the Speed tiers well, you might just have a free knockout. And so Tapu Koko has shown that, predicting what kind of set it's going to have can have a huge impact on the set, because it's able to do so many good things and so many different things, but does them all well.
Right. Another thing about the offensive Tapu Koko versions is that I feel like they've been more successful and more prominent throughout the season, and we've seen the spatter of defensive versions with the Assault Fest and, more supportive like a Thundurus or a Raichu in the past. Those were, very intermittent and very, they weren't too common. I mean, it was a big thing, I want to say late spring, but the offensive variants have been, pretty dominant throughout the entire season. So I feel like a more offensive Koko will show more success at Worlds this year.
Something else that's worth noting, as you said Raichu, and that sparked something in my memory. No pun intended. But
Gosh.
When you mentioned Raichu, I thought of how we've seen electric rodents have some success in VGC over the past couple of years. Not quite to the degree of our psychic types, but we had Pachirisu in 2014. We had everyone's favorite electric rodent Thundurus in 2015. And then Raichu in 2016. We've seen some success from electric types recently, and both of us predicting Koko here, while it's not a electric rodent, it is that supporting electric type, which is kind of interesting and worth noting. However, this year, I think, and, no personal bias at all, I could see Togedemaru making a good run, because of that electric rodent factor that World seems to take advantage of, as well as, it's able to give Tapu Koko this number one Pokemon, besides Arcanine. It gives it such a hard time because it resists its stab moves. The Lightning Rod prevents it from Volt switching out or using any strong Z moves. So Togedemaru is something else to look out for at Worlds just because of that electric rodent factor and the fact that it does so well against Tapu Koko, a Pokemon we expect to see a lot of success from.
Those type of Pokemon just have such an edge at Worlds. Like, I don't know what it is, but
it's scripted. It's scripted.
I guess so. While Thundurus is an electric type, that is no rodent. Physically, okay.
It's got whiskers.
Physically, it does not look like a rodent by, I guess, the role it plays being really annoying, sure.
Let's ask the fans. Please leave your feedback, guys. Tell me if Thundurus is an honorary electric rodent or not.
Oh, get out of here.
Moving on, I think I had mentioned that Tapu Koko is a very top Pokemon, but it's not the toppest of top Pokemon. We have Arcanine, a Pokemon that for some reason wasn't at the top from the very beginning. I think that's because we saw that Marowak take over from the very beginning of the format. When the format started, everyone was using Marowak. As that trickled down and down and down, and people saw more use in having a bulkier Intimidate fire type, Arcanine rose to the top, and we've seen it a ton ever since. And so Steven and I were talking about this beforehand, and now we're really wondering is how many Arcanine are we going to see in the final standings in the top cut?
So we undoubtedly all know how good Arcanine is. I think we don't really know what to expect in terms of numbers, what the final percentage will be of its usage at Worlds and in the final, top cut standings. For the top 8, however, I do feel like it's going to do well. A lot of players are going to be bringing it. I feel like we're in top 8. We're going to see probably 6 out of the 8 teams with an Arcanine on it.
Ooh, I was going to go one under you because I felt like it's going to be over half, but just that. So I was thinking 5 Arcanines in the top cut. I could see 3 teams going without it. Lately, we've seen a bit more of a rise in Salamence providing teams Intimidate, as well as Gyarados. Some Gyaradoses popping up here and there. People are looking for other ways to put Intimidate on their team without being bound to using Arcanine, and so I could see some other Intimidate Pokemon making it up there, as well as maybe teams without it, using other things to kind of bulk up their team, like Persian's Parting Shot or something like that. So I'm thinking Arcanine's only going to be represented on 5 of the top cut teams. Top 8 teams, that is. Okay,
so more akin to closer to like the usage percentage, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good point. Looking at the stats right now for I think what we saw in June and July, we saw Arcanine at 57%, and so very close to 60. So that's about where I would say, 5 out of 8. Do I even know my math? That's not 60%. I'm thinking of 6 out of 10. 5 out of 8, that's a tough one. That's 62%. 62.5. Right? Right?
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Somewhere around there.
Well, we don't have any calculators near us. No guessing now. No going back. Anyway, you're right. I do think it's going to be a little bit closer to its actual usage that we see in the practice ladders and stuff like that. I just think that it's tough to say when you're looking at numbers as small as 8 teams, but it'll be interesting to see how many Arcanine are at the whole tournament and in the top cut when we finally wrap things all up. But in terms of other Pokemon, in terms of the Pokemon that we don't see on the usage stats, Steven and I were both both kind of looking for some interesting Pokemon choices. Who do we think we're going to be in the cut? We did this last year. I think my odd Pokemon that I picked was Ambipom or something like that. I don't even know if there was an Ambipom throughout the entire tournament, but I'm going to go a little bit safer this time, I think. And so for my personal opinion, my odd Pokemon out, it's not in the top usage, but I'm going to say Slowking. We saw some of the stronger players like Alex Gomez and Justin Karras try out Slowking at U.S. Nationals, and while Justin did make it to the day 2, he didn't make it into the top cut. I still think there's a chance that Slowking on some interesting teams could be a possibility to see in the top cut.
So, not lying, you actually stole one of mine. I'm not going to say Slowbro because that's a cop-out answer.
I gotcha.
But I'm going to go with Magnezone. We saw we saw it pop up in London early on, and a little later in February on some of those Tapu Lele Driftblim teams. But I feel like Magnezone, with the way it can play against Tapu Koko, has that very beautiful, nice resistance against both of its stabs.
Mm-hmm.
We might see some sort of, strange team with a Magnezone on it do well. I mean, these are kind of a dark horse Pokemon pick, so I'm just going to go with Magnezone here.
So you're picking the inferior Togedemaru.
Yes. Definitely not an electric rodent here.
All right. Well, I guess now, we've talked a bit about, we've briefly mentioned the usage statistics, and so I guess we can talk a bit of meta here. Steven and I mostly talk about bigger things because, I'm sure there are tons of people talking about the meta every single day of the format, but going into Worlds, we kind of want to talk about what we expect to see, what we've been seeing going up to this time. And so I think it'd be worth talking about how, what Pokemon are up at the top. Is there going to be anything that shifts? Are we going to see any changes? Or are things going to be relatively predictable? And I think I don't think the stats lie. I think that one of the things that we're going to see most of all is Arcanine Koko, according to the usage statistics, are both above 50%. So based on those two numbers, Steven, do you think Arcanine and Koko will be above 50% usage at Worlds?
At Worlds in general, yeah. I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
People are gonna, I don't know how brave people are gonna be in branching out and using very different wacky teams rather than staying safe. And I feel like both Arcanine and Tapu Koko are gonna be safe picks for people to use.
Yeah, a lot of people joke that, you can't even build a VGC team without Arcanine. It just kind of appears in your team builder before you even get to choose. And so I feel like Arcanine is going to be on over 50% of teams for sure. It's one of those things that people are like, well, I just need a consistent fire type and that Intimidate. Arcanine just does a lot of great supporting. It has moves like Roar and Snarl and Helping Hand, Extreme Speed, things that nothing else can do. Nothing else can really take its spot. When you look at the other fire types in the format, you have things like Marowak, Talonflame, Torkoal. They all just don't play even close to similar to Arcanine. And so nothing really does its job better. That's why you see it at such high usage percentages. I think we're going to see Arcanine up there. And for Koko, I think it's also going to be above 50%. We've talked plenty about it, but there's a reason why it's up there. And I think that Koko will also be above 50%.
How much of the most recent, metagame developments that happened from Indianapolis at that last international? So stuff like the Snack Chomp or the bulldozing stuff with Metagross, or even some variants of Rain teams. How much of those do you expect to see here at this stage in the format?
That's a good question because, we got to look at the most recent large tournament. While there was Liverpool, and that's definitely a considerable tournament, internationals can't be argued to be a less important tournament. It is the biggest thing that we saw before our Worlds coming up here. And so I think that one of the biggest takeaways from the national championships in Indy is going to be Snorlax. A lot of people just saw how busted that Pokemon could be right now, just from recycling, setting up either a belly drum or curses. It's got a really, really slow speed tier, so it just annoys teams trying to set up Trick Room and sweep that way. And so I think Snorlax is a Pokemon that we're going to see even higher in usage than what we saw prior to Worlds. I think a lot of people are going to say that this is the Pokemon that we need to beat, but it's also the Pokemon we want to bring. I think Snorlax is going to be a big thing at Worlds, and in terms of things like you had mentioned Snack Chomp, that's the team that we saw Paul Chua get second at Internats with. I think it's going to fall off a little bit just because it's a very consistent team and it's very strong, but I just really do not believe in Ninetales. I think it's just used for Aurora Veil, and I really just don't see Ninetales going much further than that. I could see some switches in there, like maybe running Snack Chomp without the Ninetales or stuff like that. I don't know about Scarf to Garchomp either. I think that everyone who used it at Nationals got their one chance with it, but I'm really thinking that in terms of Snack Chomp, it's not going to go much further. And then for the Metagross stuff, I think that we're going to see plenty of that at Worlds, but I fear for all those people. Fear for their Metagrosses and their Zen Headbutts and Meteor Mashes.
Oh dear. And you pointed out Snorlax is going to be a big Pokemon at Worlds.
Oh no!
Wow, shocking.
No.
But on the lines of Snorlax though, it has, it really has two separate kind of playstyles. You have the belly drum sets and then the curse sets, and I feel like different teams can use them in different ways. So while it's sort of predictable what Snorlax is aiming to do, it's still going to be a deadly Pokemon there and tough to take down. I guess really impromptu here. How many Snorlax do we expect to see in the top 8?
Ooh.
So I can go first to give you a little more time to think about it. I'm going to go with 3 out of 8.
No! That's my number.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with 3 out of 8 because I feel like people should be prepared enough to deal with it and it won't get too deep into Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 out of 8 in the top 8.
Well, I'll just say that this is your warning, guys, for the people who are listening to this and competing at Worlds. And so I guess I'll take the smaller piece of the pie and go under Steven and see if I can get him on this. And I'll go with 2 Snorlaxes. I'll go with 2 just because he stole my number. But, I agree with that sentiment in that, we saw Snorlax do well at Indianapolis, and so people really should be just beating down on it. Run Toxic, run Haze, run Knockoff, things that give Snorlax a bad time. Run some more fighting moves on your team, or Perish Song, just ways to keep it from just sitting there endlessly recycling, because it is a Pokemon that has shown to be really, really annoying, and so I think most people should see it coming.
Okay then, very nice. So only 2 of the teams there. That'll be I gotta say I'm very interested to see how things will play out with at Worlds and with our predictions too.
Yeah, of course. But I guess moving on from the meta discussion, we can talk a bit about something that's unique to Worlds. Something that's really cool is the fact that you can switch teams if you're a day 1 player versus a day 2 player.
This is one of the questions we'd asked in our pilot episode, and same thing kind of applies here. Whether players playing on day 1 can prepare at least 2 different teams for this tournament. One for day 1 and then potentially another one for day 2 if they feel like switching something like that. But I still stand by the same things I always stand by, is that you should really I honestly think you should stick with one team that you are most comfortable with. Comfortability plays a lot into how well you can play Pokemon, and one team, I feel like you can definitely be more comfortable with one team throughout the entire tournament rather than having to flip the script overnight.
Based on what we saw last year, I think it even further assures, it makes me even more sure that I agree with what you're saying, because we saw last year, I believe Wolf was coming from day 1, right?
Yes.
And people kind of were hearing about this team that they were running. They were watching some of the games on the side TVs. Both Wolf and Marcus were using this team, so people knew about it, as well as Billa. And so 3 very strong players all using a team that had some standout stuff, like Raichu using such a unique set. And so people were talking about it. People were looking at this team, and despite that, they made it all to the top cut on that second day of competition, even though people knew that this was going on. And so I think that it further proves that, just having a strong team and knowing what you're doing with it is the best way to go. Just stick with what you know. Don't divide your practice into 2 teams, and just focus down on one concept, one team.
Yeah, this is also a funny side note, but Brendan Zhang had also used that same team that you just mentioned. And he, being the younger brother of Cybertron, he's gonna have a lot of, people know him, right? And people probably interested in how he's doing in his tournament as well. And it was funny because, he didn't have Rayquaza, he didn't have the Mega Ring or something that didn't allow him he didn't complete the Delta episode to allow him to Mega Evolve his Mega Rayquaza. And so it was funny between rounds, he was playing through the story mode of the game to get that. And it's just funny he still made top 8 with that. And then all the, that information throughout the days of Worlds.
Proving that nothing could stop that team. Nothing could stop that team that year.
Anyway, I think that's we've pretty much covered the switching teams problem, or not problem, but the switching teams dilemma. Whether you should do it, whether you shouldn't. I almost think it's a very rare thing to do that too. I think people have done it before. I haven't heard of it very often, so...
You can always make tweaks, you know?
That's true.
Nothing has to be major, you know? It could even be just one move. Or just something small like, you know, changing an item. Something like that.
Or maybe fixing happiness on a Pokemon, but I don't know. I'd be surprised if you made day 2 with that kind of issue.
Changing your Figgy Berry to an Iapapa Berry.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, same deal, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference if you have, as long as the natures don't conflict. I'm kidding around, but we were talking about this Raichu team from last year, and we saw at least 2 of the top 4 players using that last year. And so, how do you think those people are going to do, Steven? We saw Edu, John, Wolf, and Marcus all make it into the top 4 last year. I believe Marcus is the only one of them to be on the second day, or have the bye to the second day. How well do you think these players are going to do this year?
Yeah, that's interesting that Marcus is the only day 2 player for this season, or, you know, going to be playing straight on day 2 this season, whereas last year all 4 of them did start on day 1. Right? I'm not mixing anything up here.
I hope not.
Okay, all 4 start on day 1. This year, Marcus is going straight into day 2. I think he's one of the odds-on favorites to win the entire event, so I'm not going to go against that. Either. I think he's going to end up doing very well. However, the other 3 who are starting on day 1. So obviously, with all our predictions here for players who are going to do well and things like that, just note that we're not trying to be offensive to anybody with our comments here, but rather, if you don't like something we say, just use it as fuel, as motivation for you to do well instead. But going back to your question, for all of Wolf, John, and Eduardo, I don't think any of them are coming out of day 1.
So, in my opinion, what I think we'll see happen for these players is, I think that we'll see. I mean, based on what I'm seeing from Wolf on Twitter, is that him and Marcus just aren't having time to work together to build their master plan team. They went their own ways at internationals, but I imagine that they're going to be working together for Worlds, or at least I would think. They are on different days, so it kind of gets conflicting there. But I think that Wolf will make it to the second day of competition. However, Edu and John, I'm not so sure about. Just because... Well, I mean, Edu did win a special event. You know what? I take it back. I think Edu will make it to day 2, but I don't see any of these people in the top cut besides Marcus, which I think most people are agreeing on at this point. I think Marcus will be able to make it to the top 8. He's been a ridiculously strong player this season. John, I believe, didn't even get enough CP this year to earn an invite. He just has the auto invite from his finish from last season. I think he only ended up with like 300 CP. So I just don't know if this year is John's year. He had it last year, obviously showed that he was a very strong player, but I just don't see him making it into the top cut. I believe that Wolf and Edu can make it to day 2. Marcus, I think, can make it to top cut, but that's really all I have to say about them.
Okay. I mean, I feel like both Wolf and John have been struggling playing. Like, it's almost like it's still in the honeymoon phase, which is really weird to say. The honeymoon phase from doing well last year. They had the automatic invite, and I don't know. It's just this feeling that I don't feel. I haven't really liked the tournament results I've been seeing from these group of players throughout the season, and usually expect like wins or great results. And this year we've only been getting good results, which isn't going to be enough.
And I don't ever think we see the last year's top 4 do well in the next year, unless you're someone like Ray Rizzo.
Yeah, that's weird too. It's strange, but Wolf is one of those superstar players with so many accolades, and if there's someone to prove me wrong, it'll definitely be him.
Very true, very true.
But anyway, that was last year's top 4. We have Alex, we have a rough list of the attendees heading to Worlds and what the numbers are going to look like. So you can help us break down what's going to be happening on day 1 and day 2, round numbers, people attending, and what's going to be happening here.
Yep. So first of all, big shout out to Gavin Michaels. He always compiles a bunch of interesting information on Twitter in terms of VGC. Always runs some very interesting polls just to understand what the community is thinking about right now and stuff like that. So definitely go follow him and check out what he posts because it's always really interesting and really cool. So right now I'm looking at a tweet of his from back in July talking about the world's invite stats. And this year we saw 229 total invites, 52 of them for day 2 and 177 for day 1. And in terms of people that he had talked to or he was going around getting information, he said that it's looking like 49 to 50 out of those 52 for day 2 will be going. So maybe just 2 people not going to be able to make it that have day 2 invites. And in terms of the people that have day 1, it's a much wider range of people, and so it's looking at like 117 to 153 of the 177 will be going for day 1. And so we're looking in at about we're going to probably see 128 plus for day 1, which I believe, I can't remember my round numbers. I should know this well enough, but I'll probably have to just look that up really quickly. But I imagine
you're definitely spot on there with that around 128 because it's a big deal whether you have below that number or above that number because that changes the number of rounds.
Okay, yes. And so
from 7 to 8.
So I'm feeling like we're going to get that 8 rounds. 117 was the low ball estimate for day 1. I think there are going to be a number of people who either felt that they couldn't go originally or, I don't think we're going to see a full 60 players from day 1 absent. And so I think we're definitely going to break 128. And that way we'll have 8 rounds on the first day, and then the number of people that make it to the second day, people can figure it out using Top Cut calculators if you want to look ahead. But we'll be looking at, from my guess, probably 60, 70, 80, probably 70 people for the second day of competition, would you say?
Yeah, around total for day 2.
Exactly, for day 2. So 50 of those people from day 2 invites, and then only about, I'd say, maybe 10 to 20. It's just a wide estimate, but 10 to 20 people making it from that first day of competition. And so it's going to be largely people that earn their day 2 invites. And so if you're picking someone from day 1, you better have a good reason to pick them for winning Worlds, just because it's going to be a small pool of people.
Yep, agreed.
It's always a bold call because, they have to fight through so much more Pokemon through having their team information a little bit more known if they're not changing teams, and just playing against a much larger number of people. Again, repeating myself here, but that is a huge factor. When you have to play so much more Pokemon, it's going to weed out a lot of players, and it's also going to just exhaust you. These people who are starting on day 2, they have that advantage in that they are going to be fresh and ready to go starting the second day of competition, where you put all your hard work just trying to make it to that second day by earning your way to there from Friday. And so it's going to be a tough run for those people coming from day 1 this year.
Yeah, definitely is. And kind of what's more interesting about day 1 is the spread of players coming from all the regions is a little bit more even than we've seen in past years. Mainly because of just the invite structure, right? In 2016, it was relatively easy from most of the other regions. So from places like North America or Europe compared to Japan, our numbers were so much greater than theirs. And this year, just because the invites were harder to get, everything's a little bit more balanced, a little more even. I feel like everyone has more of a fair shot at advancing.
Yeah.
In terms of region, country, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, this is good to see in that we're seeing an even spread between the major regions that we see, as well as the 4 major regions that we see the internationals hosted at, and then a good amount of Japanese players coming. I don't think we're seeing nearly as many Koreans, but hopefully some of them do end up coming out, the ones that did qualify. And it's going to be cool to see a lot of Japanese players. Something that I do want to add now, and I guess this will be transitioning us into talking about how we expect the top 8 to play out. Will we see Japan make a comeback? Because they've got a good number of players this year nothing quite like 2015 where they had that open invitation to Worlds, but they've got a good number of players to send here that qualified through their crazy structure, but we've talked about that in past episodes. Do you think Japan can get revenge for what happened last year? Last year we saw no Japanese players in the top cut, the top 24, that we saw from last year. And so none in the top 8, because that's even a further division. But yeah, we saw none of them even make it into this larger cut than we've seen in past years. This top 24 cut. We saw them in 2015 have a huge dominating streak where 7 of the top 8 were from Japan, and obviously Japan won in the 2015 cycle. But how do you think they'll fare this year, Steven?
I think the Japanese players are going to fare a lot better this year, mainly because the format is probably something they're going to like a little bit more than the ones with the restricted Pokemon. Just the way things played out with what they thought was, strong going into Worlds last year. This year, there's going to be a little bit more variability and creativity coming from them, so that'll give them more of an edge. And another thing is just, we mentioned this before when we were talking about internationals, but they're going to be coming back here, with a stronger focus, mainly because, it is a little bit, you're one of the strongest countries in VGC. It's a little embarrassing last season when nobody made cut, out of a group of 24. And I think in the last round of Swiss that year, I remember seeing there was one Japanese player who had a chance. They were playing, both of these players were at X2. Jamie Boyd was playing one of them. I can't remember specifically who, but he was the gatekeeper for one of the Japanese players to get in, and Jamie Boyd ended up beating him. So that sealed the deal there. And maybe there's some other contention matches like that, but I think they're going to have a lot better performance this year.
Yeah, I think that we'll see a much different approach from Japan this year, especially since last year there was such a absence of them in the top cut. And so I really look forward to Japan making a big comeback this year. We saw at their national, they have obviously all kinds of crazy structures over there, but we saw a Sarina team end up taking it all in the end. So they are definitely flexing their creativity over there. And one of the teams that made it into the top 8 of Japan Nationals, Marcus Stetter, actually took to Indianapolis and made it to the top cut there. And so they've shown strength in team building. They've shown strength in their game, I think. And so I think Japan is definitely going to have a good amount of representatives in the top cut this year. However, I think now it's time for us to talk about how we're going to divide up our top 8. And these are purely guesses. I think one of the hardest things, it's something that Steve and I agree on, is picking the winner of Worlds. Picking one person out of so many is just kind of crazy, especially with the way Pokemon is. It's not a game where you're going to see the same person win every year. Oh, wait. Or did we? But anyway, jokes.
Yeah, it's funny you mention all that, and then yet we have Ray Rizzo winning 3 in a row, and then so many multiple national champions. And I feel, again, with the Japan players, I feel like they like this format a little bit better too. So remember last year, one of them was a day 2 player. He was starting on day 2 and didn't play. He just toured the city instead.
I didn't actually hear that story. That's a really interesting one.
Right? I'm pretty sure that happened.
Wow.
But yeah, like you were saying, predicting a winner is difficult. It is very, very difficult with the way Pokemon is geared. So instead, what we're going to be doing is predicting a top 8. So what the rules we renditioned or the rules we made for ourselves was essentially you could be as specific or general as you'd like. And the most specific you can get is picking a specific player for top 8 spots. General would be picking their region.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was just the general ground rules.
So, why don't we just start with here. Last season, 2016, the split was 4 North Americans, so 4 from the United States to be more specific, and 4 from Europe. That was the split last year. That's it. For the top 8 spots. Obviously, the top 24 was a little bit bigger, and I'm sure our actual top cut will be bigger than 8, just based on the tournament structure. But for the specific top 8, I'm going to go ahead and give mine out here. I think we're going to have My split is 1 North American, 2 Europeans, 2 Japanese, 2 Latin Americans, and 1 South Korean. Now you may think you really split and kind of have a cop-out answers here by just going to every region around the world, but you'll notice I don't have Australia, and for some reason I feel like they might falter in trying to get to top 8 at Worlds here. And me splitting my resources is actually I feel like it's almost more dangerous to do that, mainly because we know where some of these strongest players lie in, and yet I'm picking extra players to come out from Europe, from Japan, and Latin America, whereas I could devote more of my resources or picks to North America. If I want to be more specific with my picks, I do have 3 specific ones who we've seen had success in the past at the international level. I think Nick Navarre from the United States is going to be one of our top 8 finishers. Marcus Statter from Europe is going to be one of our top 8 finishers. And then Sebastian Escalante from Argentina for one of my Latin American picks.
So Steven has nailed down some of his more specific players than I have. I really only have one specific player that I feel like could make it into the cut. But in terms of my spread, I have the maybe more safe pick that Steven was describing, and I still think his answer is a cop-out answer. He's just picked basically all the regions except Australia, and so he's really sleeping on those Aussies, but yeah, Steven's answer is just way too widespread, and I think it's going to be much more consolidated.
Fair enough.
But, I could say he can say the same thing right back to me. I'm sleeping on the Aussies, sleeping on Latin America, because I have 3 North Americans, 4 Europeans, and 1 Japanese player. And so I really just am trusting in the strengths of North America and Europe. Obviously, looking at last year's results, we saw something very close to that for North Americans, for Europeans. But I just think that Europe is going to have more representatives in the cut than any other grouping. I think Europe has been pretty strong this season. And then from North America, I mean, I got to have some faith in my own country. And so... when I say country, I'm actually not sure how many. Do we count Mexican players as North America?
I think they count as Latin America in the standings.
Okay. Because if
I'm actually unsure about that, but I do think they count in Latin America for the standings.
Okay, so just trust both of us that this is what we think, but we might not be 100% on this. So what I wanted to say, though, is when I say North America, I basically mean U.S., because I believe we only have 1 Canadian qualified this year. So that's the real crazy pick. If anyone is going to pick Canada, you are picking just 1 sole player. Pretty crazy. So when I say 3 North Americans, I mean 3 U.S. players, 4 Europeans, 1 Japanese. I think Japan is going to be able to make it into the top cut this year. They are always scary to play against and very unpredictable and very strong. Europe, again, I've already talked about them, but I've only narrowed it down to 1 specific player, and that player I think is Gavin. Gavin has had a lot of poor luck in the last rounds of tournaments that we got to see on stream, and so you guys can go back and watch his sad performances, but he was able, not sad performances, but just poor luck is what I mean to say, because he lost to Ashton in the last round of Swiss at Brazil, where he missed a Dragon Tail. So shoutouts to Metagross, because I'm still warning all you Metagross players out there that is what your worlds will look like if you bring Metagross. But yeah, Dragon Tail, 90% accurate, missed, loses the last round, and then it wasn't the exact same story here in Indianapolis, but Gavin did lose the last round on stream of Indy to miss day 2. And so it's just really, he's had some heartbreaking runs. He's obviously had some great runs being a 2-time regional champion this year. He's shown that he's strong. He's shown that he's able to make it to that last round every time. And I think that finally Gavin's going to be able to break through it here at Worlds. So I think he's a pretty safe pick. He's a strong player. And obviously he's starting on day 2, so that makes him even more of a safe pick. But that's really all I've been able to narrow it down to. I could go with the safe pick of Marcus because, like I had mentioned, pretty much everyone is trusting Marcus to do this. No pressure on you, Marcus, but, everyone believes in you. But that's really all I've been able to narrow down is that I believe Gavin will make it into the cut here.
Right. Well, while I don't doubt Marcus's skill at all, I just doubt fate and the way things work out. And doesn't it just seem too perfect to see Wolf and Marcus win back-to-back years like that?
It is kind of picture perfect, and same thing for, like we mentioned, or we haven't mentioned him yet, but Cybertron. Somebody who is starting on day one, but imagining him winning it the year after Wolf would just be also too perfect.
I don't know. It is very difficult to predict a world's winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it is one of the hardest things to do in this game.
Unless you're, back in 2011 predicting or betting on Ray. No, or 2010, whatever, 2011, 2012. If you were back then, you should bet on Ray. I'm sure a lot of people in 2013 were betting on Ray.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, what do you go for the fourth in a row? But things worked out differently.
That's the year he brought Torkoal, right?
That is the year he brought Torkoal.
You know what's
funny?
Will
we see a higher finish?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. I see some people talking about it. Like, will we see a better finish from Torkoal the year that Torkoal actually has a reason to be viable? Now that it's got a weather ability? And I think it'd be hilarious. I think that's one of the things I'm looking most forward to is this Worlds is, can Torkoal do better than 2013 Ray Rizzo?
One of those great storylines, and whatever happens in this top 8, I think it's going to be really unpredictable, or maybe it'll be really predictable, just the way with how strong some of the players have been this season. But do you have any quick dark horse picks, or do you want to not worry about those?
I think
there's too many to choose from.
Too many players to choose from. Absolutely,
I agree. I wouldn't know what to do with all these names and who could do well and whatnot. But it's time for one of my favorite parts of doing this show, and this is one of my favorite parts of the World stream, or just the World's event, and that's finding out what the next World is going to be. And we did this last time. We're going to do this again. It's the World's location game. So
I had a very tough time thinking of any places, and I'm going to say it again because I think Steven stole my answer. Not totally, but I think he has a very good pick, and so I had to make sure that I thought of something else, because if we both guess the same thing, that's no fun. I've done some thinking about it.
Before you guess, remember our criteria: by a large body of water, large international airport.
Yes.
And I think yours fits this well too.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we just, you expect Worlds to be that. It's not going to be in some nowhere location. It's just easier this way. And so, there's a certain city that has a lack of a regional this year. Some people think that it's been moved. I think that it could also be for other reasons. Although we did see Anaheim host a regional this year as well as Worlds. But I'm going to stop dragging it out and just say that I think it'll be in Seattle.
Okay. Neat pick. I like it. Worlds has never been there before. TPCI is based out in the area, so that'd be very nice and convenient for them. Seattle's also actually really beautiful, given that Mount Rainier and just the mountains areas there. So, yeah, nice pick there.
And besides hosting a regional, in the past, didn't it also host some kind of other event? I think I know what you might know what I'm talking about, but maybe not other people.
Are you talking about my debut event?
Yeah, your debut.
Into competitive Pokemon? That would be nuts if Worlds were in Seattle. Like, I would be gunning for that like crazy.
Battle in Seattle, right?
Yep. The return.
The return of Battle in Seattle. But Steven, now we're waiting to hear from you. Where do you think Worlds will be?
Alright, so I guess I'm just gonna go with it. We've been in this area before, but my pick is Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Miami in Florida. So opposite coast, opposite end of the country, of North America, really. And yeah, I feel like just for those same criteria and just I don't know, there's just weird, we're taking guesses here. I just have this feeling we're gonna be over there. Now, I want to ask you, do I get credit if we get Orlando again?
See, this is the thing.
Just wondering. You're it's close enough, right?
You're looking for all of Florida, basically. And I really did want to pick Florida, but I think we'll give you credit if it's anywhere near, Basically, Steven and I are fighting over the coasts. I'm thinking that for some reason it's going to be West Coast again. But okay. I think that Steven has a good argument here in that thinking that they might switch back to East Coast. I'm hoping for East Coast in terms of myself, because if I want to get a Worlds invite again, I want to travel to some different places. Something that I was talking to Steven about would be kind of funny is if we see California for a third year in a row, The comparison I was making it to was it was kind of like back in the day when we got Embor, and he was our third firefighting starter in a row. I just imagine people
Yep.
it would leave such a sour taste in your mouth and be like, wait a minute. You did the exact same thing a third time after we were already upset after the second time. Because me personally, I love California. It's nice. I've been there before Worlds, and it's great. And I was happy to travel there to San Francisco because that was new to me. Anaheim is going to be new to me, but I would have liked to have visited some other states or some other locations in the U.S. I really, anything but California, please.
As much as I love the fire type starters, your analogy definitely works, and I really hope we're going out of California for next year's Worlds. Yeah, I do also think that they do have the location set. I don't think this is the Boston situation where they didn't know at the time when Worlds ended that year in 2014. So, Miami, Seattle, we'll see if we nail them like I got it last year. But, right, because I picked LA area and Anaheim, San Diego count too. So there we go.
Yeah.
Dude, if it got to Vancouver or Portland, like that's pretty much a win for you, I think. Like that's close enough. You got the vicinity.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of going for. It's like I said, it's a battle of the coasts. We'll see who at least gets the coast right.
Yeah. So Worlds coming up soon. Very exciting. Hope everyone qualified and I guess not qualified as well is excited to play in / watch it. Should be a good time. It'll be a really exciting event with this format and just kind of it's really exciting. Like I can't tell you, like we're coming up on 10 years worth of VGC, so this is a good time to be playing Pokemon. Just with the excitement factor in it. So good luck to everyone playing and going there. Good luck to you, Alex, as well.
Thank you very much. And yeah, now it's time to get super sentimental, super sad, super sappy because it is our last episode of the season. So, feel free to cry now. It's okay. Nobody is judging you. But we just wanted to, give some shout outs to our guests. I'll quickly go through the list of people that we tried to work with, but just couldn't get a time nailed down. And so thank you to Choppa Cross, Drew Nowak, Luke Curtail, Paul Chua, and Sam Schweitzer. We hope to have you guys sometime in the future. All very strong players and just great. Thank you guys for considering us. And then it would be perfect for Steven, the host of the show, to thank all of our actual guests, all the people that we've worked with. So, Steven, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, yeah, just along with this entire guest list and the group of people you just mentioned, thank you so much to everyone for considering our show and really helping us out. Like, I think people would get really bored if it were just you and I every single episode only.
I'm bored of listening to you talk already today. I'm kidding. I tease.
No, I understand. I understand completely. Don't worry about it. But so just to run down our entire season's worth of guests. Thank you to Aaron Traylor, Alex Gomez, Ashton Cox, Calvin Chan, Chris Danzo, Colin Heyer, Dane Zeman, Denny Hemchand, Diana Bros, Gavin Michaels, Giovanni Costa, Grant Weldon, Hayden McTavish, Jake Muller, John Hu, Joshua Lorsi, Justin Kruba, Kamal Harris, Leonard Kraft III, Matt Swanson, Mike Selesky, Nimiel Katapan, Randy Kwa, Rebecca Cartwright, Tommy Colleen, Zach Drokamp, and that's our list of guests.
So thank you to all of you guys. Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun talking with all of you, all people that are good friends, great players. So definitely people worth checking out, following, seeing what they're up to, because they're all really good people, all really worthwhile to talk to. And just like I said, again, great friends. Thank you guys all so much.
You lovely guests all made the show worthwhile and just helping us out. And you made the show what it is. We couldn't have done it without you.
Really appreciate it.
I guess we could have, but it would have been difficult. And one last special shout out to our friends over at the Lava Pool, and especially Sam Harsma, who's been running that show for years now. And he really just helped me in the beginning. Or he helped both Alex and I in the beginning just with recording and just all the ins and outs of the systems and how to do a show like this. So he really put in a lot of time where it was unnecessary. We asked him for help and he gladly helped us out. So thanks to Sam Harsma. And don't forget to check out the Lava Pool. A lot of great VGC history in a show just like this.
Yes, thank you so much to Sam. And of course, it wouldn't be a sappy, super sensational, super sentimental ending if we didn't thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys all so much, because we probably wouldn't have kept doing this if nobody cared. And we do have a good amount of people out there who do care, and we really appreciate all of you. Over the course of the year, we've talked to a lot of people at events who come up to us and say, hey, we really like your podcast, The Hyper Voice. And so it's great that you guys have been listening. And for the people that have listened to all of them, thank you so much, especially because we really appreciate you consistently following us, supporting us, all the people that have given us feedback, all the people that have approached us at events. And once again, just feel free to come up and talk to us if you do see us at an event. We love talking to people who enjoy the show, just because we love talking Pokemon. That's why we're here. And thank you so much to everyone who has listened for supporting us.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Thank you to everyone. Whether this is your first episode or you've listened to all of them, we hope you've enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for listening. Lastly, we have our final thing we always do, right? We can finally wrap up the show here.
I suppose so. Is that do I hear you sobbing, Steven? Are you tearing up?
Nope.
No?
Not at all.
No? Okay.
We have to close up shop here, and this was our Worlds preview. Hopefully, I feel like if we had more time, we could go more in depth into many things, but we don't have more time right now. So this is it. That was our Worlds preview.
We could do so many episodes on just Worlds alone. I'm looking very much forward to it. But again, we're going to ramble on forever if we don't stop now.
That is true. So, thanks again to everyone. As always, you can find our show on iTunes. Leave us a review there. Apparently that will help other people discover the show on iTunes. So I did not realize that in the beginning, but apparently that's what it does. So that'd be cool.
No better time than now. No better time than now,
right?
to get the show out there.
That'd be great. We have an email, vgchypervoice@gmail.com. You can send us your questions, send us feedback, and we can talk about some of your questions on the show on here. And we are both on Twitter. You can find us and follow us there. Alex, where can people follow you?
Follow me at Lexicon VGC.
And I am at Super Morioka. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. And goodbye.
Stay tuned for more. Alola, everyone.